if you think you had it rough growing up, I guarantee you that it could have been worse. You could have been born an egret. When a mother egret lays her eggs, and there are usually 4 eggs in an egret clutch, she lavishes just a little bit more attention on one of those eggs. She sits on one of the eggs a bit more, she warms it a bit more, she gives it just a little bit more love than she gives the other 3. And in doing so, she ensures that one of her 4 eggs will hatch a full day before the rest. And once that first egg hatches, she then lavishes similar attention on the next egg, and then on the next and the next, causing all of the birds to hatch sequentially, each about 24 hours after the one before it. It's actually a very sensible and rational strategy for the mother bird. Instead of having to take care of 4 newborn chicks on her very first day of motherhood, she only has to take care of 1. But there is an unfortunate byproduct to the process. It makes things very nasty and competitive and difficult in the nest. Hatching before the other chicks means that the first one out, what biologists refer to as the A chick, gets a head start on finding its footing and establishing itself in the nest. And it gets a full day's worth of uncontested access to food. So when the B chick hatches 24 hours later, the A chick feels that its territory is being encroached upon, and it immediately begins to peck at its weaker sibling to establish its dominance in the nest, hence the term pecking order. When the C chick hatches, the following day, the A chick stops pecking the B chick, and the B chick starts pecking the newly hatched C chick. And then the cycle repeats itself on the 4th day when the D chick, the 4th and final egg, finally hatches. And this kind of phenomenon isn't only found in egrets, by the way. In fact, the animal kingdom is replete with similar examples of sibling rivalry. It happens with pigs. It happens with sharks. It happens with penguins. And yes, believe it or not, it even happens with human beings. Some of you may know that I have a brother who is 3 years younger than I am. And before my brother was born, all I wanted in the world was a brother. In fact, I was so desperate for a brother that when my parents told me that I was going to have a little brother or sister, I told them that if it was a girl, don't bother bringing her home. You can just return her to the hospital because I don't want her. My father is here. He's shaking his head. Apparently that's true. Nodding his head. But when my brother finally did come home, like most new siblings, I was jealous. For all 3 years of my life, it had just been me getting all of the love and attention from my parents, and now there was a new baby stealing all the spotlight away. And so when my brother was about a week old, I crawled into his bassinet and I bit him right in the arm. And by the way, that happened 31 years ago, and my dad still brings it up at every possible opportunity. And when I bit my newborn baby brother, I was following in the footsteps not only of newly hatched egret chicks, but of Jacob and Esau in this week's Torah portion as well. At the beginning of this week's portion, Toldot, God tells Rebekah that she is going to give birth to twins, each of whom will be the ancestor of a great nation. As God says to Rebekah, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall spring forth. And the rivalry between those 2 nations starts right from the very beginning. Jacob and Esau wrestle in their mother's womb, and when they are born, as Kayla mentioned, Jacob is gripping onto Esau's heel in an attempt to pull him back into the womb so that he will be the first one to be born, not his brother. And in fact, Jacob's name, Yaakov, is derived from the Hebrew word akev, meaning heel. And the trajectory of both Jacob and Esau's lives is defined by this bitter rivalry between the two. They peck at each other relentlessly like egrets or penguins or sharks. First, Jacob manipulates Esau into selling him his birthright in exchange for that bowl of lentil stew. And then Jacob deceives both his father and his brother and steals the birthright blessing. And in response, Esau vows to kill his brother Jacob. And that rivalry continues through the ages. According to our tradition, Esau is the ancestor of Amalek. He is the ancestor of Haman. And most significantly, he is the ancestor of the Roman Empire. According to our tradition, Jacob is Israel and Esau is Rome. And yet, despite the bitter rivalry that defines their relationship, ultimately Jacob and Esau are not egrets. They're human beings. And their story has a very human conclusion. At the end of their story, which we'll read in 2 weeks in Parshat Vayishlach, Jacob and Esau reconcile. They embrace. They forgive one another because they remember that they are brothers. And they realize and recognize that whatever has transpired between them over the years ultimately doesn't matter. Because nothing is more important in this world than family. To paraphrase Shakespeare, Jacob and Esau came into the world as brother and brother, and they ended their story hand in hand, not one before another. And by the way, I just want to mention that my brother and I have reconciled as well. He too is now a rabbi, and every week, usually on Thursday afternoons, we speak on the phone to discuss the big stories of the Jewish world and how we're going to tie them into the Parsha for our respective sermons that week. And I am proud to say that my brother is my best friend. Once, many years ago, there was a man with a breathtakingly beautiful talit. It was long and flowing like a king's robe. It was pure white with the most brilliant blue stripes, and it was made from the absolute finest wool that anyone had ever laid eyes upon. It was exquisite. No one in town had ever seen a tallis like it before. Everyone admired it, and frankly, they were all a little jealous of it. And one day at shul, the man saw a boy admiring his talit all throughout services. And after services, the boy approached the man and he said, I love that tallis. I've never seen one like it before. Where did you get it? And the man said, actually, my brother gave it to me. And the boy said, your brother gave it to you? Wow, it must have cost him a fortune. I guess it did, the man said. You know what I wish? You know what I wish more than anything? The boy asked the man. And the man said, let me guess, you wish that you had a brother like that. And the boy said, oh, no, that's not what I was going to say at all. I wish that I could be a brother like that. Imagine if Jacob and Esau had been brothers like that from the outset. Imagine if Israel and Rome had been allies, not adversaries, companions, not combatants. The world would be a very, very different place today. Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua was once walking by the seashore when he noticed a ship sinking at sea. And just moments later, he watched as a man holding onto a plank of wood washed up onto the shore. And other Jews were walking by, and that man desperately pleaded with them. Please, he said, I am an Edomite. I am a son of Esau, your brother. I have lost everything. Can you please help me? But every Jew who passed that man by refused. They all said, no, we can't help you. You have treated our people with nothing but malice and cruelty and hatred. Why should we help you when all your people has ever done is hurt us? But then the Edomite man turned to Rabbi Elazar and he said, please, Rabbi, you are an honorable man. Will you at least help me? And Rabbi Elazar took off his robe and he gave it to that man to keep him warm. And then he brought him home and he fed him and he gave him a place to sleep and even gave him enough money so that he was able to start his life all over again. And when the other Jews heard about this, they were shocked. Why did you help that man? They asked Rabbi Elazar. He's an Edomite. They have been nothing but cruel and ruthless to us for so many years. What could possibly have compelled you to help this person? It's true, Rabbi Elazar said. They have been cruel to us for many years. But does the Torah not teach you shall not hate an Edomite in your heart, for he is your brother? Over the past several weeks, in the wake of the racially tinged anti-Semitic comments made by Kanye West and Kyrie Irving, tension between the Jewish community and the black community in this country has reached terrible new heights. And really, there is absolutely no reason that our two communities should be at odds with one another. In fact, it should be precisely the opposite. The black community and the Jewish community in this country are two groups with so much in common. Yes, we have our differences, as Jacob and Esau had their differences, but ultimately we are brothers, just as Jacob and Esau were brothers. And the sooner we remember that we're brothers and sisters, that we should be allies, not enemies, the better off both of our communities will be. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish together as fools. Or, in the words of the other great Martin, the Jewish theologian Martin Buber, when senseless hatred rules the earth, where will redemption reside? Redemption will only be realized when all people return out of their exile from one another. When Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau embrace upon the peaceful shores of love and understanding. May that day come soon in this, our world. And let us say, Amen. We rise for Chatzi Kadesh on page